Hey there, I'm Kat, and this is Brews and Reviews. Today I'm going to be talking you through the books that I've decided to read for the Past and Future Readathon. This is a readathon that I think I've taken part in for the past 2 years, and I think it's a great way to start the year with some prompts that are really easy to complete. I'll leave all the details for the host and the readathon announcement down below, so you can go and check it out and see if you want to take part. It does run throughout the whole of January, so there is plenty of time to take part if you want to. Now, before I go into the prompts and what I'm going to be reading for them, I should say that a lot of these books that I'm going to be reading are rereads for me. I am going to be doing quite a lot of rereads throughout 2023. It's just what I fancy doing, so a lot of these are going to be books that I've already read, and I'm good with that, so I hope you are too. So the way that this readathon is structured is that there are reading prompts for the past and reading prompts for the future. So there are 4 of each, and I'm just going to talk through what I plan to read for each. Let's start with the past prompt. Prompt number 1 is to read something by a favourite author. And for this one I'm going to be reading Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. The reason that I'm going to be reading this book is because Hellbent, which is book 2 in this series, comes out in January, and I really need a refresher because I don't remember what happened in Ninth House. Well, I remember bits, but I don't remember enough to be like, yes, I remember this random character and what is happening in these different places. I am actually going to see Leigh Bardugo do a talk about this book in January, so I'm like, I really need to refamiliarize myself with this book. And I thought this prompt gave me the perfect opportunity to reread Ninth House. If you don't know, Ninth House is about a woman called Alex Stern who gets offered a place at Yale University as a member of the Ninth House. There are secret magical societies, and Alex possesses a gift where she can see spirits and other things, and I don't remember enough about this book to give a better synopsis than that, hence why I need to reread it. But I really enjoyed it. There are a lot of trigger warnings for this one though. There is sexual assault and child abuse, so if you're planning to pick it up, definitely check out the trigger warnings. Prompt number 2 is to read a TBR vet, and a book that's been on my Kindle TBR for way too long is A Vow of Love and Vengeance by LP Lovell. This is the second book in a duology, and honestly, why is it taking me this long? Who knows? I thought it would be nice to have a very easy romance on this one. It's a dark mafia romance with the forced marriage trope, and I really enjoyed the first one. I actually give it 5 out of 5 stars, which doesn't happen often with these dark romance books. I find that they can be very hit or miss, but I really enjoyed the first one. And I sense there's going to be a lot of revenge that happens in this book, which is why I'm really excited to read it. So hopefully I can read this one during January. Prompt number 3 is to read a children's book, and I struggle with the children's book. I'm not big on children's book. I read very few actual children's book when I was a child, so I can't really revisit anything. So I'm kind of slightly manipulating this one, even though I think middle grade does still count as children for me. In my head it does anyway. So I'm going to be reading Wondersmith by Jessica Townsend. This is the second book in the Nevermore series. It's not a trilogy because I know there is a book 4, but it just keeps getting postponed. I read the first book in December, and I just thought it would be really good to continue with this for this prompt. I have the audiobook, so I'm going to get right to it. I feel like it could be quite an easy read, and I'm looking forward to it. And the last prompt for the past is to read something set before I was born, so that is the year 1992. Cast your mind back to 30 years ago. Ooh, so old. Anyway, for this one I'm going to be reading King Beyond the Gate by David Gemmell. I have decided throughout 2023 that I'm actually finally going to read the Draenei series. Maybe, fingers crossed. Here's hoping. I actually just wanted to reread the ones that I've already read, but not having to review them, so I could just catch up back to where I was in the reviewing process. Anyway, King Beyond the Gate, book 2 in the Draenei saga. I am also going to be reading Legend, but that's for a prompt that we haven't covered yet. This is a high fantasy book about a man called Tanaka Khan, who is sort of an outsider from both of the countries to which he should belong to, and he sort of ends up standing against an emperor, and there's just some really cool stuff that happens in this book. It's a really great book, and I'm excited to just reread this one without the pressure of having to do a formal review of it like I did last time I read it. If you do actually want to hear some real synopsising of King Beyond the Gate and Legend, which I'll discuss later, then I do have review videos for those, which I'll link down below. Right, so now on to the future prompts. Prompt number 5 is a book set in the future, and for that one I'm going to be reading Illumine by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. I have been wanting to reread this one since I picked up Aurora Rising, because I don't know, I just really love this series, and I really love the AI in this series. So I've been excited to read this one for a while, and I just thought I'm going to put it off until January and read it then, and I'm going to try and reread this whole series at some point throughout the year, but I really wanted to get started with Illuminate because I just have a craving to reread it, and I just really want to look at all the maps and the multimedia parts of Illuminate because I found that really fun the last time I read it. If you don't know, this book is a sort of multimedia compilation of what happens to a group of evacuees from a mining colony after it gets attacked. And things don't go well for them on their spaceship because there may or may not be some sort of virus ravaging the ships. And a crazy AI. So if you haven't read it, then you probably should at some point. I just really enjoyed this series and I want to revisit, so I'm gonna. The next prompt is to read a book that I'm looking forward to, and for that one I'm going to be reading Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldea. Because how can you not look forward to this book? I feel like every single person that has read this book has absolutely adored this book. And it's cozy fantasy, and this is exactly what I need. I love the idea of cozy fantasy about people opening up a coffee shop and people not knowing what coffee is. I just think it sounds great. It's also sapphic, which is a plus point, so I'm very excited to read this. The next prompt is to read a book with a protagonist who is older than me, so older than 30, and I'm going to be reading Legend by David Gemmell. I'm obviously going to be reading this one before I read King Beyond the Gate because this is book 1 in the Draenei Saga, and it's my favourite book ever. So I'm really excited to read this one. It's my fave book ever. It's a siege book about a group of people who are trying to defend a fortress from a huge horde of invaders and basically being completely outnumbered and doomed to die. And just how they stand up anyway. I don't know, this is a fantastic book and I never do it justice when I talk about it, but it's just so good. I'm really excited to read it. I can't wait to cry again. Oh, so good. And the last prompt is to read a feel-good book, and for that one I'm going to be reading Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. I am going to be taking part in the Sister Along, I think it's called the Sister Along, hosted by What Victoria Read and a bunch of other co-hosts, which I'll leave information for this read-along down in the description below in case you want to check it out. In January, the book that is going to be read is Get a Life, Chloe Brown, so I am dying to reread this one. I really enjoyed it. It was very cute. It's about a woman with a chronic illness who suffers a near-death experience and decides that she is going to make a list of things that she needs to do to get a life. And there's sort of a reluctant romance, there's a cat. The little page breaks are marked with tiny little cats, which I just think is adorable and nobody talks about, and I just think that's really cute. And I really like the representation in this book and the series that I've read so far. There's plus size representation, there's chronic illness representation, the brown sisters are black. The main male character in this book has experienced domestic violence towards him, which I don't think is particularly represented in a lot of books, and I just really love this book and I can't wait to reread it. And if you haven't picked up any of the Brown Sisters trilogy, then you really need to because they're so good. So those are all the books that I'm planning to read for the Past and Future Readathon. I am so excited to get started with these. A lot of these are rereads for me, but you know, what better way to start the year than reading books you know you're gonna love. If you're taking part in the Past and Future Readathon, let me know if you've got any rereads on your January TBR, or if it's just me that's planning to reread a lot this year. Anyway, if you like this video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!